You've come to the right place. If you're a course creator looking to build more impact, income, and freedom, LMScast is the #1 podcast for course creators just like you. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of the most powerful tool for building, selling, and protecting engaging online courses called LifterLMS. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMScast. My name's Chris Badgett and I'm joined by a special guest, Jean Perpillant from Design Theory. You can find him over at jpdesigntheory.com. Welcome to the show, Jean.
Oh man, it's awesome to be here, Chris. I'm so happy to see you again, man, after so long.
Yeah,
I think the last
absolutely.
thing we caught up was WordCamp US.
Yep, that was the last place. Originally met in Cabo, and you had mentioned some course creation goals you had, which we're going to get into in the second part of
Can't
the
wait.
show. In the first part, I want to talk about your agency at Design Theory. One of the things I look for is kind of a holistic solution, because as I call it, we have this issue right now. I call it the unbundling of the marketing stack, where there's all these like specialists. And sometimes you get going on a tactic, but you kind of get off the big picture. And you have like 3 areas you focus on at Design Theory, which is marketing strategies, web design services, and professional photography. And it's sort of like what we talk about in the show with our 5 hats. If one of those isn't optimized or even just has the basic fundamentals, you're going to fail. So
Absolutely.
like, for example, I see people do a lot of strategy and get a great looking website, but it's full of obvious stock photography that immediately kills the brand. So like if you don't do the photography piece, all that other stuff is not there. Or if you do the web design and the good photography, but you don't have a solid marketing strategy, it's just suboptimal. So tell us about your trifecta there and how you deliver a comprehensive solution.
Oh man. So it's so much. We definitely don't have time to get into all of it. Right. But it's a lot. The thing of it is to try to be as original as you possibly can, as unique as you possibly can to who you are. I think that over the years, when I first started Design Theory, I think we're about year 11 or 12 now. And so when I first started it, I didn't have any of these resources. And my initial goal was for me to just be able to create websites. And before I knew it, it was like, oh, in order for me to create websites, I've got to have a way for people to see them. I've got to have images and content that needs to be optimized so that way, it's readable, illegible, and things like that is pleasing to the eye. It corresponds with the content, and they're complementing, in terms of the text and images and the graphics. And back then, Flash was still a thing, so it was like, okay, now I have to create animations that correspond with all of these things. And once I started to really almost try to niche down, and I had to learn that over different conferences, over different books, where it was like, you really want to figure out what it is that you do really, really well and focus on that, and then find the audience that definitely needs just that. And for me, I'm still trying to get down to that finite thing. The problem is that I do enjoy photography as a hobby, and so I still have that as a service. I enjoy marketing, because it's something that is continually changing. And though I understand it because of the digital space that I spend a lot of my time in as a consumer, I'm able to leverage some of the nuances about marketing and offer that information back. And with web design, I mean, we all need a place for us to have our own content to promote, to educate, to entertain, and things like that. And so that is also something I still can't let go. I'd like to say I'm this person that this is one thing really, really well. But unfortunately, I still wear those hats, at least the ones that we've identified here, plus several more that you talk about with your 5 hats. So that's my story there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just a pro tip for people out there, if you're not living where your photographer or where your web design person is, you can always just having a photo shoot can like help. Like I remember one time I was leveling up my branding, and I realized I had gone way too long of not having a professional headshot that was me, which means high quality, not overly dressed up, because I'm not really like a corporate guy, so I'm not going to put on a suit and like present myself in a way that I'm not. But once I went, it just cost me like $300 in my local town. And she called it like what did she call it? It was like a 5-minute session, and it was really fast. I took the lowest plan And then I finally had a professional headshot. I was
Yeah.
like, I should have done that like 5 years ago.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't think about that, right? Because that is, especially if you are the face of your brand, then you want to make sure that you're representing the best that you possibly can. Years ago, when we, really first got jumping into social media, any type of picture, was fine. It's like you and like maybe, your kids in the background, or you're at the park, or you're, at your desk and the cubicle wall is like right behind you, and it looks, almost like a mugshot, and those were just, they were acceptable.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is that we as consumers are continuing to level up, and we make our judgments based on our first impressions. So you have to make a really good first impression, especially if you're using your face to help, go coincide with your brand. The other thing in terms of photography is that if you have products, we are hypercritical as consumers when we look at buying products. And if that product photography doesn't look like what we expect it to look like, based on competitor websites and things like that, or mainstream websites or bigger, we won't even buy it, because it'll seem like something that probably won't be delivered right. It won't be, the unboxing experience won't be what we expect. The packaging won't be what we expect. And then that means the product probably won't be what we expect as well.
That's awesome. Well, this isn't really a photography question. Well, it kind of is, but for the course creator and the membership site, there's this thing you create at some point, like a course or a membership has a featured image, or what you would traditionally call a product shot. And in traditional internet marketing and information products, the older school way of doing it is you would have like a box, and then you would have all these like DVDs fanned out, and
I
then
know
like
them.
the worksheets and all
Yeah.
the stuff to kind of visualize what people are getting.
Right.
And I think it's helpful, but the environment's changing in terms of, like, a lot of people aren't doing DVDs anymore,
Right.
or need a thumb drive in the mail.
Right.
So how do we make a good product shot? Like, I don't know. Do you have any tips on how to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you want to do is create the scene for where people are going to be consuming, or how they would be consuming your content. And so sometimes that may be, and I'll just use this as a prop. So sometimes that may be, let's say, even for course creations, or you're going through what you would do if you're creating a course, which we'll talk about in a second. But if you're creating a course, what you probably want to do is either hire an actor.
Let me give you an example. Let's pretend it's actually a parenting course.
Let's
And
say it's a
like,
parenting course.
so for a busy mom with kids running around at home, so there's an example. What do we do with that?
Right. And so, and we're saying that the parent has kids that are going through the course?
No, it's to help the mom or
the
the
mom.
dad. So like, there's a busy mom, first time parent course, and it's the mom is the target audience.
Right. So let's say, she doesn't have time to go out and go to, let's say, a physical
Coffee
location,
shop.
go and, a coffee shop or anything like that to kind of consume this, quietly. So what the scenario would be where she brings the kids in, sets them up with, with a snack, and gives them some toys so they can sit down and play. And then while they're playing, she's able to sit back on her recliner, grab her iPad, and then she's able to go through and, start, listening to or partaking in this course. Maybe she's, kind of using her finger, use some gestures and things like that. And then, the overlaying text, if you will, or overlaying audio is saying, even if you had a few minutes a day for you to be able to consume this, for you to educate or elevate your brand, or elevate your, whatever, your education, you can do this yourself, even as a busy mom with all these things going on, And so what you do is you create the environment, you create what the scenario is for the ideal customer avatar that you have. And that is more resonating, or that will resonate more with your target audience, especially once you've identified them, because you've given them the scenario. You've also eliminated the challenge, which probably a lot of them have been saying, I don't have time. I have this going on between work and da-da-da. Yes, you do have time. If you have a few minutes a day that you could just, calm the kids down for a few minutes, and you still be there, you don't have to leave. You can still achieve your education goals, and using this platform. And this is how simple it is, as long as you have a smart device, which most everybody does. Right. So
well,
that sounds a lot better.
I just want to say this is brilliant. I just want to restate what we learned there, which is in this one image or scene, we've identified who we serve,
right?
Which is one of the questions people ask when they're evaluating a product is this for me?
Right.
Then you're contextualizing it, and what's it like to use the product? Like, so can I see myself in the future using this product?
Right.
And you're handling the number one objection, which is I'm too busy. All like with that instead of having
And that's
yeah.
within like, that's not even a 30-second commercial. That's easily an Instagram ad for like 15 seconds, 15, 20 seconds, and you're out the door with a call to action at the end, you know? So it's totally, but that's the thing that we have to do now, because as consumers, again, we're able to identify where ads are. We can see an ad coming a mile away, whether it's, you know, on a social platform, whether it's a TV commercial, or even whether it's, you know, in a magazine or whatever. And we're able to skip those whenever that we can immediately tell within fractions of a second that this is something that's relevant to me.
Yeah, that's I think Seth Godin, it was Seth Godin who's recently talking up the whole thing about the smallest viable audience. So if you like super niche down and you're like, my program is for busy moms with over 2 kids at home that are also homeschooling and living in a rural area. Like if your niche is like that tight, when someone sees that ad, they'll be like, wait a second, yes, this is an ad, but this is like target, this is for me, not just moms in general or whatever.
Right.
So
Cool. You know, the thing of it is too that we have to remember is that there is still a part of our minds that is always looking for a way to advance something. Maybe it's the new, you know, a new foodie air fryer or whatever, right? And because everybody's talking about that, that catches its own wave of popularity. Or whether it's like, hey, you know, if you were able to save uh, 30 minutes a day and over a week, what would you do with, you know, 2.5 hours of time to yourself, you know?
yeah.
So if you're, whatever that it is, just figure out a way that you could reach down to the core of what it is that your target audience is looking for, and then give them the solution.
Well, you just dipped your toe in the water of one of my favorite subjects, which is psychology and like
Yeah.
subconscious motivation. And you mentioned that there's an innate human desire to advance. What other innate human desires might we be aware of in terms of when we're doing marketing or creating a product?
Yeah, I should have had this up, but I usually have like the 3 E's when I think about marketing, and when I think about, you know, consuming content online, especially with digital, in the digital space. So we look to these areas for entertainment. We look to these areas for education. We looked to them for enlightenment. And there was another E that I'll come back with later. But essentially, those are some core things that we look at when we're thinking about, you know, why we continue to scroll on Instagram and our Facebook feeds, our Twitter feeds, and things like that. We're looking for, each of us are looking for those things, maybe not at the same time, and maybe, you know, based on the day, based on how we feel, you know, emotions, you know, is another thing that we look for. But that's what we're looking for. And so whatever that it is that we happen to see that triggers it for us in that instance, based on the day, the time, where we are in life, where we are in, you know, whether we're home, at work, those are things that can prompt us or trigger us to make another step. And that's the reason why you want to, when we say about creating ads and creating content, you want to create content on a regular basis, because you may create something that's really, really good, but at the time that you send it out there to reach your ideal person, they may have missed it because you put it out at Tuesday at 9 a.m. and they finally jumped on that platform on, you know, Wednesday at 6 p.m. So, you know, having the ability to recreate these and how do you say, repost or post creatively at various times of the day and weeks, to then be able to capture the ideal customer. That's something that we have to do. It's tiring as one of us that wears, you know, multiple hats. We have to remember, okay, we have to set this, we have to do this, and we have to do it natively. We can't just always use these automation things because they don't work for us in terms of the algorithms of the platforms. So we have to physically do this, and to remember to do that and understand why it's important. But it does help. The hard work is essential. It very much is like it was, you know, 15 years ago when we first got into the digital space, as it is now.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, Jean, while we're talking about photography, I want to put on the hardware hat. And I hear a lot of course creators wanting to level up on their camera and their audio system.
Yeah.
So and I'm not looking for advanced, I'm looking for intermediate.
Yeah, I got
So
it.
the beginner is using their earbuds and their webcam.
Yep.
What do we do for less than $1,000 to level up our video camera and our audio setup without introducing like too much hardware?
Too much hardware, yes. So I have on the audio side. Now, this is if you're someone who is on your computer and most of the content you're going to be creating is via your computer. I highly recommend getting a snowball mic, and that's what these are right here.
And
They
for those of
are.
you listening, go check
Oh,
out
that's right.
the LifterLMS YouTube channel, and you'll
Yes.
see this podcast
We'll put a
episode.
link in there. Yeah, we'll put a link in the description, but it's a snowball mic, and they're pretty inexpensive. They're anywhere between $50 and $65 when I got mine. They may be even less now because I've had this for a good couple of years, but it's a really good brand. The sound quality that comes out of it is really, really well, and it's USB. So once you plug it into your computer, it'll recognize it, and then there's not really anything you necessarily have to download, and you're ready to go. The key that I would say with any kind of audio device is you're not going to want to have it right in front of you, like the typical, movie or whatnot that we see people in the studio and they have those mics. Those mics are special for that. These you want to kind of have at an angle, maybe at about 45-degree angle away from your mouth, so that way it's not getting the like those types of sounds, right? So that'll be a huge improvement. If you can't even get to that necessarily yet, and you really want to bootstrap it, use the Apple headphones, the standard ones that come out with most phones. They do really, really well. They're the ones I'm using right now. For audio, for me to hear, but they also have the built-in mic, and they do really, really well so long as you're in a space that doesn't promote a lot of echoing. So if you're in your room, your walls are a little close, or if you need to, maybe put a blanket over your head. I've seen people do that so they can contain the audio there. That's totally, fine, and it'll work just fine so long as you can breathe. Those will work too. Now, on the video side, most of us have a pretty late model a smartphone, whether it's an Android or iOS device. What I would suggest is that you get a camera. Use your phone if you have a later model phone, and position it in front of you. Clean the lens if you're using the forward facing or reverse, but make sure you clean it with a microfiber cloth so that way it doesn't have any smudges. Set that up in front of you on a stand. You can get these little stands, and we'll put the show notes, put some links in the show notes where you can get a phone. It's a little clip. It clips in your phone. It screws onto a mini tripod, and then you could set that up right in front of you, right, next to your microphone, and then it's set. And then so just remember that you're not doing a lot of movement around. So if it's something, again, you're in front of your computer, you're not banging on your table to make emphasis when you're talking, so that way there's no shaky audio or video. Those will do really, really well. If you want to step it up to the next level, I would say for about just under $500, Panasonic has the Lumix G7. Does really, really well. Does 4K, and the kit lens that comes with it has a little bit of a zoom lens, to where you can still get a nice little depth of field that's behind you if you have some space behind you, so kind of have a good little bokeh, if you will. But the video quality is fantastic, and again, it's pretty inexpensive. It uses SD cards, so that way, as long as you have at least a 32 or 64-bit card, you can do something that's under 2 hours. And then the other thing that I want to say, one last thing, is these little Rode mics. I'm just showing you one piece of them here, but I will put a link below. These are about $200. I love these. They are a wireless combo set where it has the receiver that can clip on to your camera, and then it's got the cable that goes right into your camera as well for the audio. And then it has another thing that looks just like this. It's a little device that you would clip on. It's got a clip. You can clip it onto your shirt, and it's got a built-in microphone, and it comes with a dead mouse on top of it if you need to be recording outside. It does fantastic audio. It cancels out a lot of background noise. I've used it in a scenario where I had it clipped on to a client where she was talking about something that was happening in an anniversary event that was happening behind her, and there was music playing back there. You kind of heard it, but you heard her even better. Like, you knew that there was stuff back there, but it wasn't distractive. And then we had people coming up to her that weren't mic'd, and they were talking to her, and it sounded like everybody that was talking to her was mic'd, even though she was the only one. And so these are by Rode. These are the Rode Wireless Go's. They go for about $200. They may be on a deal if you, depending on what time you go to the website, check them out. But I highly recommend those as a level up when it comes to audio, because again, being able to record stuff wirelessly and transmit that back to your camera. And they also can work for a mobile phone, or if you do the run and gun type of thing, they work there too. You just need to use your adapter if you don't have a headphone jack to be able to use it that way.
That's awesome. So like, there's talking head where you're like, and maybe screen sharing, those are different types of courses. But
Sure.
What you're saying, I think, is if we're doing like what I call action motion, like if I'm doing a yoga video and I'm a yoga instructor on the beach and I'm outside, there's background noise, I would want that second setup.
For sure.
That's awesome.
It's really versatile because, again, like I said, you can just plug it in, maybe in your back or in your pocket or something like that, and run a lav mic to it if you want to do that, or just use the built-in mic. It'll work great.
That was awesome. Well, let's,
Hmm.
before we transition over to your course creation
Hmm.
goals, tell us about LinkedIn. You've identified
Oh
an
man.
opportunity with LinkedIn.
Phew. Okay, so I'm going to try to take this down to a couple minutes here, but I recently did a talk at Full Sail where I did a presentation about LinkedIn and about ways to leverage LinkedIn. For those of you that are watching this, you can go back to my website and you can actually download a copy of the presentation deck that has a lot of my notes and the talking points for this. Now, with that being said, um, LinkedIn has, over the past couple of years, has kind of changed their strategy to being more of a place for content creators, and not necessarily emphasizing on those just trying to build and maintain an online business portfolio or business resume for, looking for talent, trying to be seen as talent, networking for jobs and things like that in positions.
So you're saying
Now,
they're getting more into like social media content than
it
just
is. It's
like,
much more like
yeah.
that. Yes,
Okay.
they're favoring those of us that create content, but they're looking for that. So if you remember what happened with Facebook when they started to launch Facebook Live, and where and I'll get a tidbit about this too because they still kind of do this. But if you were to go on Facebook and you say, "Hey, I'm going to go live," put in your content or whatever your description, and you hit that. What was cool about Facebook is that they would put a notification to everybody that was online that was connected to you and say, "Hey, Jean is online right now. Click here to check it out." So getting a push notification that this person's online using this platform for people to be able to see you, you weren't getting that type of organic interaction in any other way on Facebook, right? Because we saw a decline with Facebook pages, business pages, things like that. But then they prioritize this. So LinkedIn is doing the same thing. If you're creating videos, and these videos don't necessarily have to be long, they could be just quick little instructional videos. If you can try to keep them between 90 seconds and below 3 minutes, if not below 2 minutes, you'll do really well. And these are talking head videos. These are similar to what we're doing right now. We're talking about something, offering some advice about how to maybe save time doing this new feature of this application, this new way of whatever, maybe a new product or service that you're offering, and how is effective in the marketplace. Whatever that it is, you get to your point immediately. And so what LinkedIn is doing is it's leveraging that. It's making that being seen by a lot of people. And here's the cool thing about that. Now, not just video, that's also doing this with posts. Especially posts that you have images on. What's happening is that when you create a post on LinkedIn and you publish that, let's say we do it at Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Well, whoever's on LinkedIn that day that's connected to me is going to see it in their newsfeed, right? When they're scrolling, and which is great, and that's pretty typical to what you're going to see with most other platforms. The difference is that I post that a Tuesday at 9 a.m. Let's say I have connection that doesn't log into LinkedIn till Thursday, let's say 4 p.m. They'll still see that same thing. Now, if they interact with that, let's say they hit the like button, they have some other little emoji things like hearts and things like that that they've added. Let's say they do that, or they comment and they interact with that post, then the people that they are connected to that may not be connected to me, when they get on the LinkedIn, then they'll see it. So the lifespan of a post on LinkedIn organically is lasting. I'm seeing it last for almost months, up to
Wow.
2 months, depending on the engagement that's happening, incremental engagement that's happening on that post. You can see a lifespan go for months, where you wouldn't see that on the other platforms like Instagram, Twitter, especially Twitter, let alone Facebook. And that's on the organic side. That's not putting money behind it or anything. So, I am advocating a lot of people to jump on there because I've been testing it. I've been doing, and again, I have some examples in the slides, but I've been doing that where, again, you can't, you couldn't buy that if you wanted to, right now,
Wow.
to get that
That's
kind of
awesome.
exposure. So
Yeah.
that's my number one tip there among anything else. There's plenty of things that's in that packet, that's in that slide deck to leverage there. But if you're creating content now, let me say this too, as a disclaimer. If you're already creating content on other platforms, you definitely want to be creating content that is specific for each platform. Don't just, copy and paste. Purpose that specifically for the audience that is there, because again, as consumers, we know and we can tell something that is authentic versus something that is just regurgitated just for the sake of regurgitating, right? So whatever you're going to be creating on this platform on LinkedIn, remember, especially if it's video, remember that people are going to be consuming that majority in mute or the sound being off. So if you can kind of add some subtext there to kind of talk about what you're saying as you're talking, you're going to do even better. If you can keep that, between 90 seconds or less than 3 minutes, you're going to do great there too, because people are going to be able to consume that. Remember, most people that are on this platform are consuming on mobile devices. So they're not going to be sitting there, and they're not used to consuming content for a longer period of time on that platform. It may change in a couple of years, maybe, but for right now, it doesn't have to be long, which takes the pressure down off of you. And the last thing I want to say about this is that if you're creating content in terms of video, you can certainly do that with your phone. Again, make sure that it's stable. Make sure that you're in a place that has good lighting. If you don't have, maybe an external light or something like that, stand in front of your window during the day, open up your blinds and get some good light. Make sure that you don't have any background noise so people can focus on you, and it'll do really, really well. Practice.
That's awesome. Well, we'll link that up down below. Keep listening. This podcast is not over. This is just a special message about this episode's sponsor, WP Tonic Managed WordPress LMS Hosting. Think of it as everything you need to have a professional online course training platform right out of the box, ready to go. Find out more about WP Tonic's Managed WordPress LMS Hosting by going to lifterlikes.com/tonic. Now back to the show. That was a lot of value. And I just want to add one more thing, which is there's often a tendency to automate things too early or just repurpose, like you said, regurgitate for the sake of regurgitation. If you really want to leverage social media, like it's fine if it's like the same source material, but each platform has a different style of consumption and all that. I think that's a really important point. As people look to automate, sometimes you don't want to just automate and repurpose without really getting into the strategy there. Let's go into your course creation goals and what you're planning. And how can I help? Like, what are you looking to do?
We don't have enough time, Chris. We don't have time. Listen, so I want to create a platform through my website where people can come to and get organized material over a certain period of time. I'm thinking at least with maybe a quarter of a year. So let's say over a span of 4 months, there would be at least 1 or 2 webinars. And in between the webinars, there's going to be, different types of resource material for people to consume, whether it be like a 101 on, hey, this is how you can optimize your LinkedIn profile. This is how you optimize your Instagram profile. This is how you can go in and create really good content that's effective, or creating ads on Facebook or ads within Instagram and things like that, right? So those will be kind of ancillary that's there. But the thing that I, really need help on is kind of tying it all in. One of the things that I'm going to do at the very beginning of this is kind of do some discovery calls with potential attendees of this, let's say, program, where these are people who have businesses that are looking for growth and that maybe need a little bit of help on defining some goals that they could be achieved within maybe 6 months, 12 months, and even beyond, where once I do a consultation with them at the very beginning, that's included in this program, then they will get a custom strategy plan that includes their goals and includes measures that will be continually reviewed through the course of the program through an online platform, and then also have like check marks and milestones for what needs to be done, maybe per week, per month, things like that. But then also to see progress tracking over the course of the time to say, hey, you're doing really well, or hey, we're falling behind a little bit. Maybe we need to get in with another consultation call. Maybe we need to bring in somebody else, another professional to help get you through this piece, so that way you're still on target for reaching your goals. And these tasks can be hired out by somebody else of another company or another whatever skill, and they can complete these for you, so that way you can still focus on the other bigger goals, for example, that we've already outlined that are specific to you and your business. So all of that I want to kind of build, I want to build it online so that way people can access it both on, whatever device that they have, but they also have this progress tracking and they have access to this even after they've completed it. So that way they can always know, it's like, hey, my strategy plan, my custom strategy plan is always going to be available here for me to go back and review, or use that as for me to build on for the next year or the next term of the program that they want to go into.
Wow, I probably feel like you felt when I asked you the LinkedIn question, because I'm furiously taking notes over here.
Good.
A bunch of points.
Let me have it.
let me start with just a couple things. Like, who's the target audience? You mentioned small
Mm,
business. Like, I mean, I think
yeah.
it's important, especially in the beginning, to niche down
Right.
by geography, type of business,
Mm-hmm.
the style of business owner, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Like, what's what's your sweet spot? You
Yeah. The sweet spot would be businesses that are, have maybe between 20 to 25 employees and below, that have a marketing budget of, at least I would say between $2,000 to $5,000 a month. So that way, the things that we're going to create for them are going to cost, both time to create as well as money for them to put in. And so we want to make sure that they have products that there's product or services that they sell that they can budget aside a certain percentage of that for their marketing efforts. It's not something to where, if you're just getting in and, it's for established businesses, if you will, but we're a smaller agency. So we aren't looking for people that are, or companies that are bigger than, let's say, 2025, but we can also manage with people that are kind of like us, that are, wearing multiple hats, but have, established businesses, but just need some direction, need some accountability, or have been kind of, getting along, but really not, achieving the goals that they set out to achieve when they first started the business, because they got lost in managing the business and working in the business instead of working, top level on the business.
I would definitely encourage you to keep agitating the pain points there, of,
Mm,
just so that they feel like that, they're wearing all the hats, they're bursting at the seams in terms of
mm,
capacity. They need strategy optimization. What got them there won't get
mm,
them, or what got you here won't get you there. That's
right.
a perfect turning point for coaching of any kind of business coaching.
Hmm.
The other thing is the concept of course plus that we talk about, like training course plus coaching plus bringing in outside experts. Private coaching and group coaching is kind of where you're headed, I think.
Hmm.
I've personally gone through some business coaching where I had on the initial thing, there was, like, they called it a strategic growth session,
Hmm.
and it was a one-on-one, super tailored to, like, what I was going through and my unique challenges, and it was amazing. I'm part
Hmm.
of this program, and it's just mind-blowing to me,
Hmm.
like, how good it is.
Hmm.
But that initial growth session was really critical. First, to earn the trust, to get results
Right.
quickly. The thing is, like, with the consulting, which I would encourage you to think about,
Yeah, tell me.
is how do you, with every one of those people, as soon as they get in the door, where's the low hanging fruit so that you can get them immediate value and get them
Hmm.
seeing an ROI on the investment?
Right.
That's what gives you the sticking power and gets you
Right.
past the, I don't know, like the refund window, but
Right.
also keeping them committed and giving them that early win so they stay motivated.
Right.
Custom strategy plan, like, not just uh, um, like, we're not just going to give some advice on the spot, but also let's map it out to your business, and we're
Right.
going to have regular check-ins on that, is
Right.
pretty cool. One of the things I see people do as well is to unlock some scalability with that, is to
Mhm.
do a weekly or a monthly office hour where the cohort comes into the call and people can just talk about where they're stuck, and
Mhm.
business owners are learning from other business owners even if they didn't
Yes.
ask the question. So now we've got a little bit of the community element
Right.
involved. um, so that's there. And I like your focus on the budget, like, if, like, in terms of how many employees do you have, if it's 20 to 25,
Mhm.
they're they've probably got a budget, and depending upon where your price point is, like, they're thinking about that investment hard. And
Right.
there's a lot of places they could deploy that capital.
Right.
So really positioning yourself as, like, a temporary team member,
Mhm.
as part of the team devoted to the mission,
Right.
is,
Right.
like, really important.
Mhm.
The other thing that you said, which I really like, is with training and consulting and membership stuff, I think there's a transitioning happening where we're in this world of information overload, and,
Yeah.
like, you can hire anybody anywhere to do anything and all this stuff. It gets a little overwhelming. So one of the things that I see course creators and coaches and consultants do to really sharpen the their focus is, where do they start and where do you end? So if you, like you mentioned, it's a quarter program, like
Mm-hmm.
quarter of the year,
Mm-hmm.
and after it's done, they might still have lifetime access.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's really cool because some membership models are around like, I'm going to try to keep this person as long as forever.
Right.
And that's cool too. Like if you want
Sure.
to do that, but
Sure.
for a business owner to be like what kind of program style is it? Is this like a boot camp where you go and there's this
It's a good question. Yeah.
it's a quarter of your life? Are you going to, and then when you're done, you're out, you're done. It's an
Mm-hmm.
accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something where I'm trying to keep you forever. I'm trying to help
Mm-hmm.
you accelerate and get crazy results and clarity and strategy and be more efficient.
Right.
But I'm not here to become a dependency. I think some of the
Right.
best coaches, they know how to let go. They know how to
Right.
get good results, and then
Right.
they know how to like let go.
Right.
So I
One
don't
of
know. I'm just jamming with you. Like
No, I
what?
love this. I love
Yeah.
this. I need you to send this right back to me so that way I can we consume this. But one of the things I wanted to say is that I've also done a talk about this before. We're talking about the difference between a mentor and a coach, right?
Yeah.
And even with having coaches, and really either of those, you want to have multiple ones of. This is for me, and I wanted to mention this because I think it's very, very important to the conversation that we're having. Is that you definitely will grow or outgrow your mentors and your coaches, and you should. The goal
Yeah.
is for that. And the other thing is to have multiple coaches and mentors because each of them will offer you something that they can offer you at the time. But that's based on that person and their experiences in the marketplace. They don't have all of the answers and they don't have all the experiences, and which is why you're going to want to have multiple ones to source from, so that way you can grow based on your business. All of us are offering a different and unique experience in the marketplace, even if it's a service that's already out there, whether it's new or old, but we're still offering it in a different way. So we need to be able to position ourselves with different types of coaches and mentors to be able to take us through a time period, whether that may be and that's, it's relative, but it may be 3 months with one coach, 6 months with this mentor, a year and a half with this other coach, and so on. It really does depend. It depends on each person and who they have and who they can get or acquire as business or as coaches and mentors.
That's awesome. Yeah, and one of the philosophies I see with the most successful coaches and course creators, online training program creators, is they focus like a laser, or they prioritize like at the top the
Mm-hmm.
learner results. Where I see people get into trouble is when they focus on things like, I want to make money online, I'm trying to get recurring revenue, how do
Right.
I increase conversions? All these things are really important, and I'm not against any of them. But the people that I see find the most success are focused like a laser on the results, like the program effectiveness and
Right.
how their people are doing.
Right.
So one of my coaches, his name's Dan Martell, he has a saying where, how do we he asks the question, like, how do we add more value for our target market than anybody else in the world?
Mm.
And if you use that, like as you are creating your program and just keep thinking about it
I
and
like that.
improving your program over time, that's the place where the powerful programs kind of come out of that. Um, the other thing that I wanted to bring up with you is just
Yeah.
the piloting concept, where we talked a little bit about trying to automate too much or too early.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would love it. Like my just top of the cuff ideas for you is like, how can you run this as raw as possible with as minimal tech, even without a website, with like just a Zoom account and an invoicing software,
Mm.
by creating an offer and sending it to your existing client base, or, running some ads or whatever, so that you could get, even if it's just 2, 3, 5, 10 people in the first version. What I notice is that, well, I like to say that
Yeah. Go on. No, you're on it. Go ahead. Keep going.
the
I'm
launch
in.
is the starting
Mhm.
line. It's not the finish line.
Right.
So, uh,
Right.
in order to do continuous improvement, you have to get like, um, one revolution through it first.
Yes.
And the
Right.
way you do that, I call it moving slow to move fast. Like you got to pull back, and it's especially hard for you, I would imagine, as a technologist and a marketer, and you see how you can connect all the dots
Yeah.
to create the offer and just go through it one time. because what happens is, and when you run that, the next time you launch it, it's going to be even better.
Of course.
I also recommend not doing the first one for free. Like
Mm-hmm.
people need to have skin in the game, but if
Mm-hmm.
you can do an early adopter discount and just raise your prices over time as you achieve better results and better product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an evolution in learning. If I put my instructional designer hat on, we have a concept called spiral learning, where the mistake that people make is, if I'm going to have like this pie and there's all these wedges that people need to become masters at,
Mm.
I'm going to focus on this one slice of the pie. What's one slice of the pie for you?
We're talking about in terms of measurements.
Or just like a skill area where you're helping these business owners? Like what's an important
Oh,
slice?
one of the biggest slices for me, I feel like where success is probably the easiest to cultivate is accountability.
And where's another slice of the pie that these business owners need that's important?
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
Hmm.
So the mistake people I see make is, and this is a theory. This is something I learned from an instructional designer named Julie Dirksen. Is
Yeah.
the is to try, people stay in one slice of the pie for too long. Whereas,
Hmm.
how do we get like a little win in knowledge and then shift, get a little win in accountability, and then
Mm,
keep going around? And now we're back and we're doing it. We step up our game a little bit and
I
we start
like that.
moving around in a spiral, as opposed to being like,
I like that.
we're gonna master this
I
one
get it.
area and then we're going to move on to the next one. That's the big mistake. And
Hmm.
it's part of the expert's curse, because you forget, because you've spent all the time in the trenches and you see what
Right.
works, that people, it's a lot harder than it sounds to get into beginner's mind and to get out of your own way and help somebody just get a little bit further along and
Right.
before becoming a master in this one domain.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to draw that out, and I'm
Yeah.
going to send this to you because I think that, and I don't know. Again, I'll give this to you if you created it, just like you did with the five hats. But if this is I love this. That makes a lot of sense when I think about. Like, that's what makes you want for more. So if you
And
think
that gives
about,
you the quick wins.
it gives you the quick wins, so you know
Yeah.
that you're getting the progress, but then you also look forward to the next thing because you want to be able to move on, just like
Yeah.
any type of game or whatever. It's like, I get to level up. So now that you've leveled up, now when you come back to that first part of the pie, the first slice of the pie, you're now on the next level of that pie,
Yeah.
and you've already you know you have the confidence of success, knowing that, hey, I've done this already. I've come from all these other things before, so I'm definitely ready to take on level 2 of this and move on. And I know that the next level 2 of the next slice of the pie will be just as attainable as it was for me the last time that I did it. So I can continue to move. I love that. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it's well, I have full credit to Julie Dirksen, and also I mentioned Dan Martell. He says growth stacking, not hacking. So
Mm,
the fact that you're stacking these little wins, they actually play off each other.
mm.
So instead of just, I'm
They
going to
do.
give you this hack and we're just going to go in this direction for the
Right.
first 3 weeks,
Right.
um, it's there's no opportunity for this part to compound on the other part and for them to build together. Well, that's awesome. Well, this has been a really excellent show, John. I really appreciate it.
Man, it's
Um,
been great.
I want to encourage the listener to head on over to Design Theory. That's at jpdesigntheory.com. We'll have some links below in the podcast show notes. Is there any other final words you have for the people? And I just want to say thanks again on such a
Oh
great
man,
episode. We covered kind of this is like a two-part show. We'll have to have you back on again.
for
But
sure.
any final words for the people out there?
Oh man, listen. Ask questions. There's a lot of people that are around you that actually are eager to answer those questions for you. I'll say that for me, I try to spend a lot of time wherever I can and meet up groups and things like that, and stay behind and be able to provide solutions or at least provide answers. For those of you that are out there that are looking to get into something or maybe even level up on your next offering, ask questions on those that may have already done something similar. Or if you worked with people in the past, just say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? What are some pitfalls that you think that I should avoid? And what are some things that you think that I can leverage based on things that you've already tested? And getting that advice from people that you've met highly recommend it. Masterminds like the ones that we went to, you know, at PowerPress, fantastic. I have relationships, especially with you and others, that I think that I'll have forever because of that. And I have the confidence now, because before going into that, I was looking for an LMS system, and I was like, I've seen yours, I you know, read some things about it, but then actually sitting down and talking with you, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. He's definitely the company I'm going with. I'm going with his, you know, because I could resonate with you. And by staying at home, which a lot of us like to do, and try to just Google stuff and research stuff, you don't really get the same impact. So ask questions and go out there and get involved in any kind of networking event that you can with some other creators that are doing things that can complement your business.
Well, awesome. Sean, thank you so much for coming
For
on the
sure,
show. I
man.
really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
We'll have to do it again sometime.
For sure. This is awesome, man. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it.
And that's a wrap for this episode of LMScast. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I hope you enjoyed the show. This show was brought to you by LifterLMS, the #1 tool for creating, selling, and protecting engaging online courses to help you get more revenue, freedom, and impact in your life. Head on over to LifterLMS.com and get the best gear for your course creator journey. Let's build the most engaging, results-getting courses on the internet.